From London, this is the Standard Podcast, and I'm Mark Blunden. Coming up in this episode, concerns for E17's hipster breweries amid local council's cash crisis. But first, with the budget on Wednesday getting us more focused about stretching the pennies, who's splashing out on £1,000 a night London hotel suites amid a 5-star building boom? Well, it seems there's plenty of business at the top end. The London Standard's business editor Jonathan Prynn reports the capital is on the brink of a new luxury hotel gold rush, with destinations offering hundreds of 5-star level rooms and suites due to open over the next 18 months. He reports fears that they would saturate central London with £1,000 a night plus rooms that they could not fill appear to have been allayed by continuing strong occupancy levels and generally robust room rates. And Jonathan joins us now. What are you reporting about London's 5-star hotel gold rush? What is it and why the boom?
We're in the middle of what, by London standards, is an absolutely extraordinary run of openings of super luxury, high-end hotels coming into the capital. It sort of started last autumn, about a year ago, with the Peninsula opening at Hyde Park Corner. It was the Peninsula's first hotel in London, and that was followed by Raffles at the OWO, the old War Office on Whitehall. And it just hasn't stopped since then. Just in the last few days, another 5-star hotel, the Park Hyatt, River Thames, down on Nine Elms. That's the first 5-star hotel in London south of the river for at least a decade. And they're just going to keep rolling out over the next year or so. It's absolutely remarkable run of new openings I don't think we've seen in London, certainly not in my experience. And it's just been driven by remarkable demand from the sort of global elite for incredibly opulent places to stay in London.
And in terms of the global elite, which countries are these high spenders visiting from?
It's visitors from America. There's loads and loads of Americans in town at the moment. Also from Asia, from China, from Hong Kong, but also from the Middle East, wealthy Arab tourists, as well as some Europeans and some Brits who want to enjoy the best that London can provide in terms of accommodation.
Are these in the planning stages or ready for business?
I think the ones that people are getting very excited about over the next year or so include the former US Embassy in Grosvenor Square, which is under construction and will be ready by next summer. Will be known as the Chancery Rosewood. The Six Senses, the first outpost of the Six Senses, which is a wellness-orientated, focused brand. There'll be a huge spa there and lots of wellness facilities. That's opening at Whiteley's in Queensway, the old Whiteley's building, probably autumn next year. And beyond that, we've also got the Reuben brothers, immensely wealthy property developers. They're opening 2 extraordinary new destinations. Cambridge House, which is a Georgian mansion on Piccadilly, which they're turning into very, very opulent 102-room hotel towards the end of next year. And then the old Admiralty Arch, that will become, again, a very, very opulent hotel.
Are these new developments mainly renovated old buildings or newly constructed?
It's a mix. I mean, Peninsula was a completely new building at Hyde Park Corner, which cost over £1 billion, and I think has been dubbed London's first £1 billion hotel. The Park Hyatt down at Nine Elms, that's a complete new build as well. But yeah, some of them are taking some of these extraordinary buildings, historic buildings in London, the old War Office, Admiralty Arch, this Cambridge House on Piccadilly, and turning them into just these incredible, luxurious destinations, places to stay.
And among the big names, a new venture for London's Richard Caring and Le Caprice.
Yes, so Le Caprice is coming back to the former US Embassy site in Grosvenor Square, Chancery Rosewood. That'll be opening next year. So Le Caprice returns in a new site away from its old original site in Arlington Street. So, I mean, there's going to be 10 restaurants and bars in total at that hotel. So it's an absolutely enormous development.
Let's go to the ads coming up. Trouble brewing. Concerned for E17's hipster breweries amid local council's cash crisis. Why not hit follow? In the meantime, give us a rating. Welcome back. There are concerns East London's famed Blackhorse beer mile could be at risk. The London Standard City Hall editor Ross Lydall reports 2 breweries run by the Wild Card Brewery, which was a pioneer in establishing the making of craft ales in the area, have been shuttered after bailiffs arrived. cash-strapped Waltham Forest Council ordered bailiffs to remove Wild Card from the premises it occupied on the Lockwood Way estate off Blackhorse Lane earlier this month. To discover more, Ross joins us now. What is the beer mile and what have you discovered?
If listeners were to get themselves on the Victoria line and head north, one stop before Walthamstow Central is Blackhorse Road Tube Station. Get out there, cross the road, and you are at the start of the Blackhorse Lane Beer Mile. Now, it's not necessarily a row of never-ending pubs and bars, but there are certainly quite a few as you sort of walk in a northerly direction. And many of these places are independent breweries or tap rooms. So rather than them being pubs in themselves serving beers that you'd see in every other high street pub, these are local producers who are making their own beer or wine and selling it, often because they can't get their stock in normal pubs, if you like. So they invite customers into their premises, and for an altogether different environment, this is what has helped to put E17 on the map.
And what is the risk currently?
The risk that some of these breweries or sort of wine producers are having on the sort of Blackhorse Beer Mile is that some are tenants of Waltham Forest Council. Now, Waltham Forest, like many other London councils, and indeed like many councils outside the capital, is, to put it mildly, cash-strapped. We'll find out more in the coming days exactly in how much difficulty Waltham Forest Council finds itself. But a story a few weeks ago mentioned that it was projecting a £30 million deficit over the coming 3 years. Now, what Waltham Forest has been doing is essentially looking at its commercial property portfolio, including on many sort of industrial estates around the borough, and it's basically saying to tenants, guys, if you're in arrears, then you really have to cough up quick because we're in dire straits ourselves. Now, some of these tenants who have arrears are the aforementioned sort of breweries and wineries. And many of these debts date back to COVID. Some of these operators sort of set up during the really tough pandemic times. Things have been getting better, but possibly not getting better quite quick enough for them to clear their debts. They now feel that a sort of heavy-handed approach from the council, and that's their view, not the council's, is putting them in jeopardy and could affect the wider image of the Blackhorse Beer Mile. The reason for this is the demise of essentially one of the pioneer breweries, one of the best known outside Walthamstow, the Wild Card Brewery, which in the last month or two has had bailiffs turn up both at its site just off Blackhorse Lane and also another site off Shernhall Street in essentially Walthamstow village, about a sort of mile further east. So because of the demise of the Wild Card Brewery, many other sister breweries have got rather concerned about whether it might be them next.
How much of an impact do you think London's soaring pint prices are having on the beer mile?
Well, that is a very good question. You know, like it is not a cheap way to necessarily have a night out. Just the other day on my way to see the mighty Arsenal take on Liverpool, I popped into a pub in Finsbury Park, bought a pint for myself and my mate, and that was £13.20, please. That's quite a lot of money. That's £6.60 a pint. And by comparison, earlier that day, my daughter had been playing football with her mate, and 2 hot chocolates and 2 Krispy Kreme donuts came in cheaper than these 2 pints of beer. So a pint ain't cheap in London these days. What certainly one of the breweries told me they'd been doing was like a £4 beer night. So they were well aware of the impact of the sort of credit crunch, the cost of living crisis on their customers, and they were selling pints for £4, which seemed pretty good value to me. So many of these small traders are well aware of the difficulties of attracting and retaining custom, but going out to have a few beers has certainly been affected. And obviously many people prefer to pop down Tesco Express to buy 4 or 6 cans and necessarily go and spend a little bit more in a pub, sadly.
What's Waltham Forest Council's response, and also regarding the future of their creative enterprise zone in protecting remaining breweries?
Well, the council says it has a responsibility to taxpayers in general to make sure it essentially calls in its debts, which is fair enough. You know, if you're paying council tax, the last thing you want is the council essentially not collecting as much money as it should, and therefore council tax bills have to arrive. A council spokesman did unfortunately decline to give a clearer example of how many many firms it has referred to bailiffs. The trigger here is the fact that it's actually taken such a hardline approach and it's actually called in the bailiffs, and this is what's caused such alarm. But a council spokesman did tell the Standard that we work hard to assist local businesses and give them the time and support they need to thrive. When a company has accrued significant rent arrears, we may need to take action to protect the public purse and ensure taxpayers' money is used wisely. Now, I think they're referring in particular to the Wild Card Brewery. One of the two sites the Wild Card Brewery was on was a council site, and therefore the council is believed to have been owed hundreds of thousands of pounds. Sadly, we couldn't get hold of the Wild Card Brewery. It does appear that certainly both of its premises are shuttered. Whether it's going to return in some way, fingers crossed for its customers. But this is a wider issue that's affecting a number of these breweries. And the concern, of course, is, and this is a concern shared as well by Stella Creasy, the Labour MP for Walthamstow, who is very concerned about the impact of what she calls a much loved and visited attraction, such as the Blackhorse Lane Beer Mile.
And that's the Standard. For more news, head over to standard.co.uk. This podcast is back tomorrow at 4 p.m.